This episode of the Justin Robert JuRY program is brought to you by absolutely nobody.
Ugly ain't the half, look at you. Well, you got blue teeth and you only got two teeth, but I kinda like to see you smile. And it appears that over the years you've turned into a big old steaming pile. And she said, yeah, I know I ain't no supermodel. I said, you ain't a hand model, baby, but that's fine. Ugly by most people's standards, but you're alright by mine.
If it ain't yet another edition of the one, the only, the irreplaceable, the unstoppable, the absolutely incomparable Justin Robert Young podcast. Holy shit, holy poop, holy sweet goddamn, we are back yet again. And can I tell you this? If you are watching us either on YouTube or live on diamondclub.tv, where we are every single motherfucking week, then you are seeing a crystal clear version. Maybe not crystal, maybe it's something a little less than crystal, but I am very excited because we have a better picture than the Herc to the Jerk webcam that I was working on, because I got my black magic cards fixed. Hooray! And by I got my black magic cards fixed, I mean Colleen fixed my black magic cards, or walked through hellfire and brimstone, god damn it, King, to bring me back to full health on the computer that she gave me. It really, I mean, like, an embarrassment of riches, my life is, that I have one of the foremost minds in video on the internet, full stop. You know, she works at Facebook, compressing the videos that you watch on Facebook that legitimately make the internet smaller. The internet goes on a diet when Colleen comes to work. And she's my tech support. Like I'm her 90-year-old fucking grandma. And I'm like, but my computer doesn't work. Colleen, fix it, please. She's so patient. She's so amazing. So a big shout out to Colleen, because now this motherfucker works. Big shout out to Darren Kitchen. We were working on this up at the Hack 5 warehouse yesterday. And that dude is awesome. And he lent me a black magic card because that was the problem. Problem was one of the black magic cards was shit. And so I got to send it back. Long story short, that's not interesting. This is interesting. This is the Justin Robert Young podcast. We're going to be talking about a lot of esoteric things on this very episode. We're going to talk about the notion of praise. We're going to talk about the notion of Christmas and the trees for which adorn them, and whether or not you should be taking my advice on any fucking thing that I talk about. But since it's the Justin Robert Young podcast, we're going to start off with a story about me. I went to a party on Friday night. It was the Patreon party. Patreon is a site that is awesome. It is just an amazing platform where artists can go and say, hey, I would like money. Would you like to pay me money? And then people say, all right, yeah, I'd like to pay you 50 cents an episode, because I feel like I get 50 cents out of hanging with you. And now that we lived in this post-entertainment cartel universe, wherein a lot of people are just cutting the cord and saying, why don't we just pay creators directly? The idea that you need to be on a network to do stuff seems a bit archaic and weird. I'd rather just give money right to the people for whom entertain me. So we go to this party, me and Ashley, and it turns out that there are two people performing. One, and for those of you who don't know, Patreon is run by or co-founded by Jack Conti. Jack Conti is a co-member of the band Pomplamoose. They do awesome stuff on YouTube, and you might remember them a couple years back. They were hawking Hyundais or Hondas or something like that, singing Christmas songs. But they got, of course, since they're music focused, right? They got a couple musical performances. One of them is by, oh my God, and I'm going to embarrass myself. Chat Realm's going to need to come to my aid on this one. A chick named Megan. I believe her first name is Megan. I didn't catch her name. They said it once or twice. I was transfixed by her music, but I was too embarrassed to ask her name. Fuck, man. Her name's Megan, and I put a picture of her on my Instagram. So if somebody wants to go on my Instagram and tell me who she is, because I want to subscribe to her on YouTube, because I thought she was great. And then the next person to come up. Now I don't know that there's gonna be music here. I'm just there with Ashley and Veronica, and it's Julia Nunes. Julia Nunes, who is huge on YouTube. She's fucking amazing. She's doper than dope. It's cooler than a polar bear's toenails. Sipping a milkshake in a snowstorm. She performs, kills it. She does great. Now, way back in the day, on Night Attack, Julia was, if not the first, one of the first people that came on a webcam and performed in the summer music series. That is a thing that we used to do on the show. It was a way, because I read this book, The Late Night Wars, the new Late Night Wars, the one about Conan and Leno, and they talked about how musical guests were totally a vestigial organ of late night television. Nobody fucking knows why they still have bands on late night. It's not good for late night. Everybody tunes out when the band comes on because they assume the comedy's over, and the celebrities are done showing up. And it's not good for the band. The bands don't see a spike in sales like they did back in the 60s and 70s and 80s when being on one of these shows really meant something for you. So bands just show up on late night shows for no fucking reason, just because they always did and because it's a cool thing to do to go on Letterman or Leno or Conan. Or now Jimmy Fallon. Maybe Jimmy Fallon makes it different because they do a little bit more about it. And, you have the Roots, so now it's not just you coming on and performing your song, you're performing it with the Roots. That's a side jag. We started doing it on the NSFW show because we realized that it could be a co-symbiotic relationship between a podcast and a musical artist because we're both still in a world where people are discovering stuff, and it would just be a cool collab thing. So Julia Nunes is one of the first people to come on, and this is fucking years ago. So she's performing. Ashley leans over to me and says, "Psst, wasn't she on NSFW?" I'm like, "Yeah, she was." It's like, "Well, why don't you go say something? Go say hi afterward." I'm like, "Okay, sure." And I was planning on it because she did a good job. Like, I was going to come up and say, like, "Hey, what's up? What's going on? I really dug your stuff," because I'm always a big praise guy. I'm a big, let me talk to you guys if you've done something. And I mean the world, right? If the world does something awesome, I want to let you know you did something awesome. And I liked it because in my heart, I want people to tell me that when I do a good job. I have complicated feelings past that, how I process praise, but I do know that I would like it because I want to keep getting better, and I want to know both good and bad about what I've done. So when I enjoy stuff, I try to go out of my way, especially music. I try to go out of my way and say, "Hey, good job. I liked your shit." Comedy too. But at the same time, I'm almost less likely to want to do it. I'm less likely to want to talk to Julia because I don't want this to be, hey, remember when you were on my show? Because this has happened to me a couple times where I go to Dragon Con, I go to Nerdtacular, and my default position is just to go on every single show that ever asked me. So if somebody's like, hey, you might remember me, you were on my show, a lot of times it's over audio, and a lot of times I just can't remember who's on the other side of that fuzzy screen. I don't know who the fuck show I've been on. So I want to spare her the situation that I find awkward many times. Or at least try to make it as little of an awkward impact as possible. I want to guide things. So I got to freeze up about this. And I'm like, I don't know. I want to go talk to her. I don't know. I want to go say hi. So it's the end of the night. Veronica's on the way out. We're about on the way out. And I'm like, let me go just say hi to the two ladies who made music. And I just want to go. In my mind, what I want to happen is me to just go up and say, hey, you did a great job. You're awesome. Thank you for making music. Bye. That's all I want. It's what I want to do. It's not what happens. I walk up to the Megan lady. Fuck, I hope her name is Megan. Can somebody please look at my Instagram so I'm not fucking... Because this will be the worst thing ever, is if, one or both of them see this and I can't remember her fucking name, which has already happened. So I guess I just need to own my shame. I'm sorry. Your music was awesome. I walk up and I say, your music awesome. And she is super friendly. Super friendly. That's great. What's your name? Do you work at Patreon? And I'm like, no, I don't. I just have a podcast on the platform. I think it's great. We start talking about how awesome Patreon is. And she's like, oh, I have a podcast too. And we're just at the point where in the volley back and forth of conversation, I'm talking about the podcast when Julia, who was standing next to this other chick, who we're now just going to refer to as Megan, she just kind of moves out of her other conversation and into ours, because she was talking to Megan and then they wound up getting split up, and now she is rejoining the Megan conversation, whatever it might be, happens to be with me. And in that moment, I say, because Ashley's there too, and Ashley had been, well, you should talk to her about, that she was on the show, that she should be on the show again, yada, yada, yada. I decide to bridge the gap and say, yeah, no, I have a podcast. It's called Night Attack. We used to be called NSFW Show, and when that was the name of the show, Julia performed once. Now, in my mind, what I would like to happen is for me to evaporate into a cloud of mist, be sucked up into the ventilation system, blow out into the San Francisco Bay, waft over the gentle breeze and waves, waft through the gigantic machinery of the Oakland Harbor, wisp my way back into the apartment and rematerialize. Because I have now said everything I'd like to say. I've said the 100%. I've emptied my inventory, and anything past here can only be awkward. There's only awkward. Careful, beware ye who enters. Awkwardness will be your reward, should be the big weathered fucking sign on this conversation. Because what happens next is weird and awkward. I get the look from Julia that is surely fucking a karmic retribution for any time that I have walked up to somebody and talked to them and they said, oh, you were on my podcast, and I have looked at them with that why, and you're not watching on YouTube or live, It is a wide-eyed look that might as well just be a big fucking apple wheel. It should be a beach ball. A beach ball should fucking appear on your face. Because that is you or me or Julia scanning their brains to think, who the fuck is this asshole and should I fucking know him? Which does not for good conversation make. BT dubs. Because the answer is I can't fucking remember. And I can never fucking remember when I'm asked this question, and fucking she surely was not able to remember. However, because she's a nice person, she tries to make it work and says, oh, I remember. I was doing that show when I was really tired and walking around a pool. I know this isn't true because she was on a webcam and she performed. But I should have just let it go. I should have. I should have just said, oh, okay, sure. Because really what I want the most is to get out of this conversation. I want more than anything to get out of the conversation. But I can't. And I don't know why. I just can't. I can't leave it be. And I say, no, you weren't walking around a pool. You were on the webcam. You were performing. So now I've put it back on her. Like it just, And now I'm looking back at that old weathered sign, the back of the old weathered sign that warned me that awkwardness is only here. From this step forward, you will be bathed in the barbs and bramble of awkwardness. Because we're in it. And she says, oh, we're. And at that point, I jump in and I'm like, hey, listen, I wouldn't fucking remember. I barely remember being on the show. It's totally cool. It's totally awesome. You guys are great, and that's great. And it's at this point that I don't know whether or not they want to keep having a conversation with me, like whether or not the conversation was going well enough at the beginning, and like there's only so many creators at the party. Everybody else were just either fans of people or like, people who work at Patreon. So there's a really fun conversation of people swapping tips on how to run Patreons and how to launch Patreons. So maybe they want to talk to me. I have no idea. I don't know. Because all I want to do is GT to the mother effing O, the fuck out of that building, because I now feel so fucking awkward. And I feel like such a mark that I fucking put Julia into this position. That I put Julia into the fucking like, hey, do you remember my podcast? Oh, I know it wasn't the one you think. It's another one. So they're like, oh, well, that's cool. And I'm like, you guys were great. And they're like, yeah, really fun party. You guys were great. And I can't think of anything else to say. I can't think of anything else out of my mouth. You can literally ask me anything. What do you think about the Vichy regime in France? You guys, you were awesome performing tonight. Your voice is beautiful. Oh, okay. Well, that's really cool. When I'm filing my taxes, do I need a W-10 or a W-2? You guys are amazing. The melodies really played well with the sound acoustics. You can tell a musician bought this apartment. Okay, and thank you for saying we're good. But also, if we're going to take either Uber or Lyft in the city, because we're not from around here, which one would we take? I mean, I'd buy a recording out of how you guys performed tonight. And at that point, I don't know. I think I fucking turned into a bat and I flew away. Like, I have no idea even how the conversation ended. It was so fucking awkward. And I felt like such a fucking idiot. And it's just, I don't like talking to people. I like talking to you. I like talking to the fucking chat realm. I like talking to the podcast. And it's amazing how much I like talking to my friends. I talk the fucking ear off my friends. But for whatever reason, I have a hard time talking to people that I would consider to be either artistic peers or betters. It is a problem for me because what exists there is what people would refer to as networking. You meet people that could further your career. I'm not good at it. I'm good at talking. I'm good at talking to my friends. I'm good at talking to people who want to listen to me. I am not good at talking to people that are better than me. I'm not good at it at all because I feel like I'm bothering them. And it is weird, and that's my story. We're going to talk more and more about the concept of praise on this here show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Justin Robert Young Podcast. And today's music, we are again rolling with Come to Brazil. This is the Nesh Complex remix of their single, Supervillainy. Oh, crap. Thank you guys for being here. I kind of freaked out a little bit on that one. That one got a little bit more heated than I was expecting it to. Can somebody please, for fuck's sake, find me this girl's name? Please, can somebody go on my fucking, please somebody go on my Instagram and take a look at the picture of this chick and help me out. Megan on YouTube, she plays guitar. She was fucking great. I would love it if we could at least end this. For me forgetting her name for the entire fucking show, at the very least, I could get a credible plug out for her. Captain says, I checked your Instagram. I don't know what to look for. It's me at the Patreon party. I think it says, like, checking out some sweet tunes at the Patreon party because I'm that fucking asshole. All right, let's talk about this email I got. JuRY. It was written by Mink. I had a surreal experience, at least to me, that I expect you to have some interesting insight into. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I've been watching people like Tom Merritt for a stupidly long time. I wrote into DTNS the other day, only to be told that I had a, quote, well-written email, or something like, quote, excellent insight. But I'm just a schmuck who's a terrible writer. To anyone who has ever read my writing, they tend to grab Paul Nancy Millstone's Jennings of Sussex just to avoid my writing. Except for that Tom Merritt. Dude, it's freaking weird. So that email made me think a lot about the idea of praise and where we find it comfortable and where we don't. To bring it back, Julia Nunes had a song that she wrote about how she finds compliments off-putting or weird. I don't know if off-putting is a good word. She finds them weird. She's not necessarily a huge fan of them. They just make her feel weird. And praise makes me feel weird too. I mean, I would like to get it because I want to know that I'm doing something right. But I tend to feel kind of the opposite of what Mink feels. So what I'm going to go ahead and diagnose, Mink is like, oh, well, everybody who's ever read my writing thinks that I write like shitty. And then all of a sudden I write into one of my favorite podcasts and the dude's like, oh my God, this is great. So how do you process that? Are you a good writer or are you not a good writer? The answer is neither. You wrote a good letter, and that's awesome. But your problem isn't with assuming or trying to find that as evidence or trying to justify it as evidence. Your problem is your entire structure. To think that there is a thing as a good writer as opposed to somebody who has written a lot of good things. So you have written one good letter. Should you write more good letters, then you will have a body of work that would speak to other people as good. There is no talent. There is no road. There is only the work. There is only the result. There is only what people interpret of the final product. So people think your writing sucks. That's fine. That's their prerogative. You have the right to keep writing. You have the right to get better. You have the right to then show other work to other people and have them react to it. So maybe you got yourself a little talent at writing succinct tech punditry. That's pretty rad. As far as writing talents go, that's downright motherfucking marketable. People make good goddamn careers off of such. You know, better than writing furry fiction. Oh, that actually might actually pay more. Better than being able to write, I don't know, really awesome. I'm having a hard time thinking of something that wouldn't make money. A writing talent. What's a writing talent that fucking wouldn't make money? I have no idea. Carl says, you know, also get an editor. But I mean, like, here's the point. Just write. Just keep writing. If you want to be a writer, then keep writing. If you want to be a good person who talks into a mic for a fucking hour, you got to do it. That's what I did. I tell you what, go listen to the first fucking couple episodes of this show. They suck a fat fucking pallet of ass. They fucking suck a metric ton of ass. They're terrible. And that's terrible. But, you know, I keep doing it. And I decided to do it week after week. And now all of a sudden we're having a conversation. Me and you and Mink in the chat room. And we'll get to my thoughts on praise because it's hard. It's hard to deal with it. Because sometimes you don't want to get fat on it. Praise is like candy. Ooh, it's good. Who doesn't like a fucking nice little piece of cake somebody hands you? Oh, it's delicious. And sometimes it's overt praise. It's like, you are the best thing I've ever seen. Oh, such delicious and rich chocolatey cake. But like any kind of sweet, sometimes you get fat on it. Sometimes you look back and you're like, oh shit. Did I just think I fucking nailed it and I stopped doing stuff? Did I stop growing? Was the praise that I got not helpful? Was it, in fact, detrimental? And I think I get obsessed with that idea sometimes because when people give me praise, I have a tendency to think less of their opinion. I'm always looking to flip people. That's what I value. Somebody who didn't like my shit that now likes my shit. Ew. That is amazing. I loved it. Somebody who comes up and says, that was great, and then comes up again and says, that was great. What the fuck do you know? You think I'm good. I suck ass. I'm not nearly as good as I'm gonna be. Why didn't you wait until I was that good to tell me? Instead, you fucking had the audacity to see worth in me before I saw worth in myself. Fuck you, Dad. So I have issues. We all have issues. We can get into this more. But first I want to get into why I fight for my Christmas tree. Because I sure as fuck do. And I'm really, really excited about it. And it's kind of a reaction to Ashley's thing here today. So here we go. Here's more music and then we'll talk about that.
Roll up on your bitch with prime prejudice. That's terrible. That's terrible.
I've just now realized that I'm going to have to deal with the fact that people are just going to tell me that I suck from here on out from listening to the show, and I have brought that on myself. So now when that happens, I can't blame anybody but me. Who here's a big Christmas fan? I love Christmas. Christmas is great. I'm not a Christian man. I don't celebrate the reason for the season. I like giving gifts. I like buying gifts. I like getting gifts. I like Christmas trees. I like Christmas music. And I don't know why. But I think I do. I don't know. I think what it is I like the fact that everyone's just on the same page for a little bit. And it's different. It's just a theme, right? I love the Christmas themed month of December. It's just fun. We all get to wear different clothes and we have parties and there's like all these rituals to it. That's rad. That's super fun. All of a sudden, everything kind of means a little bit more because we're just all together on something. There was a collective nature to the season, which is why I always fight Ashley for the Christmas tree. Ashley fucking hates this goddamn Christmas tree that we do every year. And I obsess over it. And this is not an Ashley thing. I had roommates in Florida. None of them gave a shit about the Christmas tree. And I'm like, well, fucking, unless you guys want to fight me, I'm going to buy one. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to decorate it. And I every time I come out of my room for a glass of water, I'm going to see a Christmas tree and I'm going to smile. Because that's what my jam is. My jam is waking up in the middle of the night, seeing a Christmas tree, and smiling. And I know that sounds fucking super dumb, but it is one of the simplest fucking joys that I have to believe other people share, right? Like, that's got to be the reason why Christmas trees exist, because people like coming downstairs or fucking out of the room to get a glass of water in the middle of the night and looking at it and smiling. I can't be the only person who does this. And I love that because that's a very weird, peculiar, specific action. It was this that kind of made me think of the story Christmas Florida, which is in my now re-released Christmas short story collection, Go Home Santa, You're Drunk. You can download it at gohomesanta.com. If you, it's still $5.99. I was going to put it back up to $7.99 for both the ebook and the audiobook, but fuck it. Dog, I'm sorry. We're not going to do that. We're just going to leave it at $5.99 because it's 12 stories from last year, including Christmas Florida, which takes a very creepy take on the idea of everybody having the same collective notions of Christmas, and 3 new stories. One of them is about being stuck at an airport and who would be the worst person to run into if you were stuck at an airport bar during a snow delay. One of them is about professional wrestlers based on a podcast I listened to featuring Paul Heyman and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And one of them is a new Christmas poem because I love Christmas poems. And last year I wrote a Christmas poem about Santa murdering a street pimp. This is another one in that vein. So I'll let you enjoy what happens to the street pimps. Spoiler alert, It's not good. Go ahead and email me. We have one more episode, I think, before Christmas. So email me what is a very specific Christmas memory that you have, or the thing that you enjoy about Christmas. And not anything broad, like I like giving gifts. Something very specific. Like I like to listen to a certain album, or I like to give a certain kind of gift. I like to wear a certain kind of very specific clothing. I want to know, let's just drill down, very granular, what y'all dig about Christmas. We have another question about whether or not you guys should take my fucking opinion on anything. And we're going to round it up into your email coming up next.
Terrible.
You can send me emails, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. That is justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. I just looked to try to find out. I looked on Julia Nunes' Twitter to see whether or not I could find this lady's name, and I couldn't, but she did use the picture that I took of her on her Twitter. So that's cool. Look at that. Emails, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Make sure you put JuRY in the subject line. That is JuRY. JuRY. Gina writes in. I talked last week about how I have this problem for me about people calling me a terrorist, and it almost made me shave my beard, because it's not like I can't take a joke. Just at some point, being told that you are a murderer over and over again kind of wears on you a little bit. First couple times, all right. Next 1,000, especially when everybody's smiling and they want you to laugh at it like it's right? Terrorist. Zing. Gina writes, repetitive, unimaginative, cruel jokes really take a toll on one's self-esteem, in my opinion. The important thing to remember is that if whatever you're doing, wearing, adorning yourself, makes you happy and confident, / able to look in the mirror and not go blah, and doesn't negatively affect anyone else, then you have the responsibility to yourself to keep doing it. Fuck the basic idiots and their almost always unwanted commentary. I wouldn't even bother to try to come up with responses, not in a ignore the problem, it'll go away sense, but in a don't compromise something that brings you joy for the ease of fitting in. Whenever I want to wear a bandana and all my hair is covered up, my friends, acquaintances, coworkers, loved ones like to remind me that I look like I have cancer. The comments seem to be relentless. How's chemo? In remission yet? What stage? I used to be able to get over it. I already have a body image issue, but for a long time, I stopped wearing bandanas altogether. Then I said to myself, fuck them. They aren't right. I like the way I look, which is a rarity, and I owe it to myself to hold on to that feeling. Now when I get told I look cancery, I either ignore it or say that's fucked up and leave it at that. Great eps, JuRY. The beard is so epic, it should have its own ballad. Thank you very much to Gina. Gina, I'll tell you what, I don't think you look like you have cancer. I think you have, if there was a different disease that spread like cancer, but it was awesome, that's what you got, girl. Ken writes, regarding whether you can call yourself a comedian, I say, of course you can. But one thing I love about Brian, Andrew, and yourself is that you're all difficult to peg down. Is Andrew an author or a magician? Is Brian a magician, a comedian, or a system hacker? You can pick one. Though if Brian were to introduce himself as a system hacker, I would heckle him, as would the rest of the world, rightly so. Jason, I want to share my own life experience and try to relate my thoughts to your pondering. Growing up in Indiana, I was becoming a bit of an athlete, as boys do. To make a long story short, the Midwest gamers, games and appreciation of tough. While I was talented at football and wrestling, I was not quote-unquote tough in the traditional sense. My style was more fluid and mental. Give me an open field and I'll show you the end zone. My coach, on the other hand, was a run up the middle or hit them harder than they hit you kind of guy. Being young, I left sports knowing I had failed and switched to music, which I failed at in college, but that's okay. Years later, in my 20s, I'm now a sales professional and have since moved to California and back. In my time in California, I saw a whole new world where they appreciate athletics. And I'm always wondering, what if? What if I was born there and had focused all my efforts? I'm blessed with a body that could have grown into something special, but I live in the real world and I'm happy with that. And I guess that is exactly the story that I was kind of encapsulating in my mind. And we all got our own narratives, right? And there's the benefit to not having done it. The benefit is you don't have to worry about whether or not you really could have done it. You could just say, well, maybe. But ultimately, there is that whole, if you were going to invent Facebook, you would have invented Facebook thing. So if I was going to be a top-flight comedian, I would have been a top-flight comedian. If Jason was going to be a football player, he would have been a football player. But instead, I'm talking to you guys, doing what I do, which I'm very, very happy about. And Jason's a sales representative. Now, does that mean that every dream is dead? No, just those. But maybe we should stop holding on so tightly to what dreams are. Dreams live, they die, they go away. If that's what they are, then why do we fucking get so obsessed with them? Is it because they tap into us on a source code level? Maybe. Or maybe Jason just can't hit people and I can't make people laugh. Mike writes, for the last decade, I've been going back and forth between clean-shaven and long beards in the style of wizards or metalheads. I often get comments comparing me to a terrorist, hobo, serial killer, or the most recently emerging Bible-thumping redneck bigot from The Duck Show. People really need to stop judging people based on their appearances, for their judgments are dangerously offensive more often than not. Call a female showing a bit more skin than you a hooker, and she's likely to hurt you. Hey, listen, man, it's a good point. Although maybe people should start calling me a hooker. I don't know if that would work. Bearded hookers? Gigolos are normally fucking clean shaven, right? Are gigolos more often clean shaven than bearded? Who knows? If you do, write me. JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. Use JuRY in the subject line. I also asked you guys for beard comebacks. I got one that was my favorite. This one... So again, I'm asking, people are going to call me a terrorist. As long as I have this beard, I am going to have to respond to them. So if they say, hey man, you look like a terrorist, Zero suggests I instead respond right to them with terror. I hardly knew her. Hold on. Wait a minute. Megan Tonehes. Let me see. Is this her? Yes! Yes! Megan now I can't pronounce it because I'm that big of a piece of shit. Megan. So everybody go to patreon.com, patreon.com/MEGHANTONJES. She fucking rules. She was awesome. Check out her music. She's making $592 a song, and she should make more. I'm fucking going in for money right now. Somebody hit her up right now and say on Twitter and let her know that Justin was raving about her because she was awesome even though we couldn't remember her name. If you guys find yourself in the doldrums, if you are not my same breed of Christmas freak and you instead find this gray season to be an unending hellscape dotted with only disappointment, well then, friends, at your lowest, I want you to remember that there is one spire of light piercing the darkness, and it is me calling to you and